Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, beloved friends, and welcome to another Divine Loss program. I am Correa, and we are here every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to study the laws that govern the universe and thus help us to align ourselves with God's love for immortality. It is with this purpose in mind that we welcome everyone forming this current of light. Thank you, beloved friends, for choosing to seek the good and multiply the good together. Tonight, our inspiration for learning to think the good, seek the good, feel the good, and multiply the good even further will be question 912 of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. First, we shall read the question, followed by the answer from the illuminated spirits. Then we shall comment and propose a therapeutic exercise for all of us. Shall we, dear friends? Let us then begin by reading the question Kardec has asked. What is the most effective means of fighting the predominance of the corporeal nature? What a beautiful question. Very timely, since the new year is approaching and we tend sometimes to let a little loose, to let our guards down, to seek to relax. And in doing so, we may have to fight the predominance of our corporeal tendencies, as Kardec asked here. So let us learn together with this perfectly timed question on the part of the spirit mentors of Kardec Radio. The answer, dear friends, is short and yet very illuminating. The mentor spirits answer this question in one sentence. They say, practicing self-denial. What a beautiful proposal for all of us. This is a great New Year's resolution. Because often when the new year comes around, we tend to perhaps fabricate or devise or put together a list of wishes that we hope God will allow us to accomplish. And perhaps our list of wishes is very focused on what we believe is good for us. We say, oh dear God, we truly hope that in this coming year we shall have that job promotion. Maybe you grant us the permission to buy that new car. Perhaps we will start a new relationship or find a new job. And yes, it is okay for us to have these goals in mind, beloved friends. They are somewhat natural for those of us living an experience as an incarnate soul on earth, yes. But the question is not necessarily what we ask, it's how we ask. Do we ask for those resolutions to come into fruition, to just fulfill our own whims as children do when they ask for gifts? Or do we make resolutions thinking of how useful those resolutions might be for the greater good as well? This is what it means, beloved friends, to practice self-denial, is when we learn to consciously put the common good above our very own. And we may be wondering, but dear Carol, if we put the common good above our very own, then how shall we make ends meet? Beloved friends, God shall provide. Let us look at an example. If we reread or look at the book Paul and Stephen, we have an example of someone who truly practices self-denial versus another who practices satisfying his own whims. If we compare, for instance, Stephen to Saul of Tarsus before he became Paul, we have two contrasting figures that should help us understand how to practice self-denial. Whereas Stephen, on the one hand, loses his home, loses his opportunity to make a living, becomes a slave, and yet remains faithful to God in the midst of a pandemic at the time. He even contracts the virus and remains between life and death, as many of us are at this very moment in hospitals. He faces all these difficulties, and yet in his mind, he keeps repeating to himself, God knows best. If God loves us and allowed us to be here, there is a higher purpose. And as he remained delirious, tells us Emmanuel in the book Paul and Stephen, from the fever as he contracted the virus in the pandemic 2000 years ago. He unconsciously recites the Psalms from the Old Testament. This is how much of a faithful heart he is. And he continues to practice self-denial, never asking God for anything for himself, just praising God for everything that he was given. So the glass, beloved friends, was always half full for Stephen, even amidst slavery. His faith is so unwavering that he's taken to the house of the way to recover from the virus at the time. And it is there and then that he meets Simon Peter, Master Jesus' apostle, converts himself to Christianism, recognizing in the Christ the promised Messiah, and becomes the greatest, one of the greatest followers of the Christ in early Christianism. And it is thanks to him that Saul of Tarsus, became Paul of Tarsus. But if we contrast Stephen in his self-denying journey to Saul of Tarsus in his self-centered journey, we see that in the beginning of the book, Saul of Tarsus only thought about how he could get a promotion, how much he deserved to be recognized, how much his fiancée should be there to serve him. And when life didn't give him what he expected, he felt victimized and conflicted. It took a visit from the very Master, Jesus, for him to open his heart and let go of selfishness to become selfless. Thank goodness Paul of Tarsus made such a strong inner resolution that he never again looked back, and it is thanks to him, under the inspiration of Stephen, that we now have the good news that spread all over the world, since Paul of Tarsus walked on foot to preach the message of the divine Messiah. So let us, dear friends, inspired by the example of Stephen first, and then Paul of Tarsus second, Allow for the divine light of self-denial to shine from within. Let us practice in this holiday season as the new year approaches to speak less of ourselves, to think less of ourselves, to want less for ourselves, and to think of dreams for the greater good. Dear friends, shall we? This shall be our New Year's resolution. And if we have some time in our hands, we are all invited to reread the book Paul and Stephen, because Stephen is such an elevated spirit that he can inspire all of us to rise above the current expectations of our society and aim higher, so that in this year and for immortality we may progress more and more towards the divine. This is the proposal from the mentors to all of us. Happy New Year, everyone! And let us practice loving more, giving more, smiling more, and having greater faith. For Master Jesus and ultimately God loves us no matter what. Thank you, dear friends, for the blessing of this moment together. Let us then keep counting our blessings in the days to come and in the new year. For here we are always thinking of the good and multiplying the good together. Many blessings, dear friends, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2022 right here on Kardec Radio, because here we are always nourishing our souls. Bye for now.